The rain hammers the cobblestone streets, a relentless drumbeat that drowns out the hum of the city. Neon signs flicker in the distance, casting fractured reflections in the puddles underfoot. A man stands beneath a street lamp, its weak glow carving shadows across his face. His coat is damp, clinging to his shoulders, but he doesn't move. His eyes are fixed on the cafe across the street, where she sits, framed by the window like a painting. Her laughter cuts through the storm, sharp and alive, her hair catching the warm light inside. She's with friends, unaware of the man watching, unaware of the weight of his gaze. He's not a stalker, not a creep, just a man who knows the game is about to begin. The air smells of wet asphalt and possibility, and his heart beats a rhythm that matches the rain. Steady, deliberate, alive with intent. What does he want? Not her love, not yet. He wants her attention, her curiosity, her surrender to a moment he's about to create. But how does he cross that street, step into her world, and bend it to his will without her ever suspecting she's been guided? That's the question, the puzzle, the art. And it's an art he's mastered, not through charm alone, but through something darker, sharper, older, something Machiavellian. The man adjusts his collar, the cold biting his fingertips, and takes a step forward. The world feels like it's holding its breath. He's not thinking about pickup lines or rehearsed smiles. He's thinking about power, about the invisible threads that connect people, about how to pull them just right. The cafe door chimes as he steps inside, the warmth hitting him like a wave. Conversations hum around him, but his focus is singular. She's there, still laughing, still unaware. The contradiction is intoxicating. He's a stranger, yet he's already shaping the moment. He doesn't need to know her name to know her mind. He studied the patterns, the signals, the unspoken rules that govern every interaction. He's not here to charm her. He's here to command the room, to make her wonder who he is before he says a word. The rain outside keeps falling, but inside the air shifts. The game has begun. This isn't about love or lust, not yet. It's about control, about understanding the currents beneath human connection and steering them with precision. The man knows something most don't. Talking to a woman isn't about words, it's about strategy. It's about seeing the chessboard before the pieces are even placed. It's about knowing that every glance, every pause, every subtle shift in tone is a move in a game that's been played for centuries. And the ones who win, they're not the loudest or the flashiest. They're the ones who see the board clearly, who anticipate, who manipulate without being seen. This is the art of Machiavelli applied to the dance of human connection, a dance that's as deadly as it is beautiful. Why does this matter? Because the world is a battlefield of desires, and most men stumble through it blind, armed with nothing but hope and half-learned tricks. They think charm is enough, or looks or money. They're wrong. Charm fades, looks deceive, and money buys only fleeting glances. What lasts is power, the power to captivate, to influence, to leave an impression that lingers long after you've left the room. The man in the cafe knows this. He's not the tallest or the best dressed, but as he orders a coffee, his voice low, his eyes catching hers for just a fraction of a second, he's already winning. She doesn't know why she's looking back, but she is. And that's the first step. This script isn't about pickup lines or quick fixes. It's about mastering the deadly art of talking to women, not as a game of chance, but as a calculated act of influence. It's about understanding the psychology that drives attraction, the tactics that command attention, and the strategies that turn fleeting moments into lasting impact. It's about becoming the kind of man who doesn't just walk into a room, he owns it. And it starts with a single, undeniable truth. To master this art, you must think like Machiavelli. You must see the world not as it appears, but as it is. A web of motives, desires, and hidden signals, all waiting to be shaped by someone bold enough to try. The cafe hums with life, the clink of cups and the murmur of voices blending into a kind of urban symphony. The man sits now, his coffee steaming, his posture relaxed but deliberate. He's not staring at her anymore. That would be too obvious, too desperate. Instead, he's reading a book, or at least pretending to. The pages turn slowly, his fingers lingering on the paper, but his attention is elsewhere. He's mapping the room, noting who's watching whom, who's leaning in, who's pulling away. He's not just here for her. He's here to understand the entire stage. This is the first lesson of the Machiavellian mindset. The world is a theater, and you are both actor and director. Machiavelli, the 16th century philosopher, didn't write about dating or attraction. He wrote about power, how to gain it, keep it, and wield it without remorse. But his principles apply to any arena where human desires collide, and few arenas are as primal as the dance between men and women. To talk to a woman effectively, you must first understand power. Not the loud, aggressive kind, but the quiet, invisible kind that shifts the air without anyone noticing. It's the power of perception, of timing, of knowing when to speak and when to let silence do the work. The man in the cafe knows this. He knows that the moment he speaks to her, he's not just starting a conversation, he's declaring his intent to shape the interaction. The Machiavellian mindset begins with detachment. You cannot control what you're obsessed with, and obsession is the enemy of strategy. Most men approach women with a kind of frantic energy, their minds racing with what to say, how to impress, how to avoid rejection. They're already losing. The man in the cafe isn't thinking about rejection. He's thinking about the outcome he wants and the steps to get there. He's detached from the need for her approval, which paradoxically makes him more compelling. Detachment isn't coldness, it's clarity. It's the ability to see the situation as it is, not as you wish it to be. Consider Machiavelli's famous advice. It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. In the context of talking to women, this doesn't mean intimidation. It means commanding respect. A woman doesn't need to love you to be drawn to you, but she must respect you. Respect comes from confidence, from certainty, from the sense that you know exactly what you're doing, even if you're improvising. The man in the cafe embodies this. When he finally speaks to her, maybe a casual comment about the book she's holding, delivered with a half smile that suggests he's not trying too hard. It's not the words that matter. It's the way he carries himself, the way his voice doesn't waver, the way his eyes hold hers just long enough to spark curiosity without crossing into discomfort. This mindset requires you to reframe how you see interactions. Most men view talking to a woman as a test they must pass, a hurdle to overcome. The Machiavellian sees it as a chess game where every move is calculated, not to win her over, but to create a dynamic where she wants to engage. It's about shifting the power balance subtly, so she feels like she's choosing you, when in reality, you've set the stage for her to make that choice. This is the essence of strategy. Control the environment, not the person. Let's break it down. The man in the cafe doesn't approach her immediately because he knows that timing is everything. He waits until the moment feels natural, until her friends are distracted, until she's glancing around the room, her attention unmoored. He's not rushing because he knows that impatience signals weakness. When he speaks, his words are simple but deliberate, designed to provoke a response without demanding one. "That's an interesting choice," he says, nodding at her book. "Most people here are glued to their phones." It's not a compliment or an insult. It's an observation that invites her to engage without putting her on the spot. She looks up surprised and the game is on. This is the first principle of the Machiavellian mindset: control the frame. The frame is the unspoken context of the interaction, the lens through which she perceives you. If you approach her with neediness, the frame is that you're chasing her approval. If you approach with confidence, the frame is that you're someone worth knowing. The man in the cafe sets the frame by acting as if the conversation is a gift he's choosing to give, not a prize he's trying to win. This subtle shift changes everything. The conversation begins, and the man in the cafe is now in her orbit. She's responding, her posture shifting slightly toward him, her eyes lingering a fraction longer than necessary. He doesn't celebrate this small victory. He expected it. He's not here to guess what she's thinking. He's here to understand it. This is where the art of talking to women becomes less about charm and more about psychology. Women, like men, are driven by a complex web of instincts, emotions, and social conditioning, but the signals they send are often subtler, layered in nuance that most miss. The Machiavellian doesn't miss them. He studies them, not out of obsession but out of necessity. Female psychology, in the context of attraction, isn't about manipulation in the crude sense. It's about resonance. Women are drawn to men who understand their unspoken desires, who can navigate the tension between what they say and what they feel. The man in the cafe knows this, so he listens more than he speaks. When she talks about her book, he doesn't interrupt with his own opinions. He asks a question, his tone curious but not eager. "What made you pick that one?" It's a simple question, but it's loaded. It invites her to reveal something about herself, to invest in the conversation, to feel seen without him overtly trying to impress her. This is a key insight. Women are more attuned to emotional cues than men. Where a man might focus on the content of a conversation, what's being said, a woman is often more focused on the subtext. How it's said, what's left unsaid, the energy behind the words. The man in the cafe understands this, so he keeps his voice steady, his movements minimal. He's not trying to fill the silence with chatter, because he knows that silence itself is a tool. A well-placed pause can make her lean in, can make her wonder what he's thinking. It's not about what he says next, it's about the space he creates for her to fill. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must understand the nature of those he seeks to rule. In this context, that means understanding the dual nature of attraction, the conscious and the unconscious. A woman might say she wants a kind, funny man, but her unconscious is often drawn to strength, confidence, and a hint of danger. This isn't deceit, it's biology, layered with social expectations. The man in the cafe plays to both. His words are kind, his demeanor approachable, but there's an edge to him, a subtle intensity in his gaze, a quiet certainty in his movements that signals he's not just another nice guy. He's something more. This duality is where most men falter. They lean too hard into one side, either overly aggressive, which repels, or overly passive, which bores. The Machiavellian finds the balance. He's warm, but not weak, assertive, but not domineering. When the woman in the cafe laughs at something he says, he doesn't chase the laugh with more jokes. He lets it linger, his smile faint, his eyes holding hers just long enough to make her wonder. He's not trying to entertain her, he's inviting her into his world. Another layer of female psychology is the need for safety, but not in the way most think. Safety isn't just physical, it's emotional. A woman needs to feel that she can open up without being judged, that she can be vulnerable without being exploited. The man in the cafe creates this safety not by being overly agreeable, but by being unshakable. When she shares something personal, maybe a story about why she loves that book, he doesn't rush to relate or one-up her. He nods, his expression thoughtful, and says something simple but perceptive. That says a lot about you. It's vague enough to keep her guessing, specific enough to make her feel understood. She's hooked, not because he's perfect, but because he's present. This presence is the cornerstone of attraction. Most men are distracted, either by their own nerves or by the need to impress. The Machiavellian is fully in the moment, his attention a spotlight that makes her feel like the only person in the room. This isn't an act, it's a discipline. It's the result of training himself to observe, to listen, to pick up on the tiny cues that reveal what she's feeling before she even knows it herself. A slight shift in her tone, a flicker of hesitation in her smile. These are the signals he reads, and they guide his next move. The conversation deepens, and the cafe seems to fade into the background. Her friends are still there, but their voices are a distant hum. She's leaning in now, her body angled toward him, her phone forgotten on the table. The man hasn't touched his coffee in minutes. He doesn't need the prop anymore. He's in control, not because he's manipulating her, but because he's mastered the art of emotional domination. This isn't about coercion or deceit. It's about creating a dynamic where she wants to follow his lead, where she's drawn to his energy like a moth to a flame. Emotional domination sounds harsh, but it's not about overpowering someone. It's about guiding their emotions with precision. Machiavelli understood that power isn't taken, it's given. People surrender to those who make them feel something profound, whether it's awe, curiosity, or desire. The man in the cafe is doing this now. He's not trying to make her like him. He's making her feel alive. Every word, every gesture is designed to pull her deeper into the moment, to make her forget the world outside. How does he do it? By controlling the emotional tempo. Most men rush conversations, afraid of losing her attention. They fill every silence with chatter, every pause with a joke. The man in the cafe does the opposite. He slows things down. When she asks him a question, maybe about what he does for a living, he doesn't launch into a resume. He leans back, his eyes narrowing slightly, as if weighing whether to answer. "I solve problems," he says, his tone light but cryptic. She laughs, but it's a nervous laugh. She wants to know more. He's not giving her everything, and that's the point. By withholding, he creates a vacuum she's compelled to fill. This is the push-pull dynamic, a cornerstone of emotional domination. You give just enough to draw her in, then pull back to keep her chasing. It's not about being aloof or cruel, it's about balance. Too much attention, and you seem desperate. Too little, and you seem disinterested. The man in the cafe threads this needle perfectly. When she talks about her life, maybe a stressful job or a dream she's chasing, he listens intently, but he doesn't offer solutions or platitudes. Instead, he mirrors her emotions, his voice softening when hers does, his energy matching hers. This creates a connection that feels effortless, even though it's anything but. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must appear virtuous while being ready to act otherwise if needed. In conversation, this means projecting warmth and sincerity while maintaining control. The man in the cafe does this by sharing just enough about himself to seem human, but not so much that he loses his mystery. When she asks about his book, he doesn't launch into a lecture. He says, it's about power, how people chase it, lose it, or wield it without anyone noticing. His eyes meet hers as he says this, and the subtext is clear. He's not just talking about the book. She feels it even if she doesn't fully understand it. This is where the art of storytelling comes in. Women are drawn to narratives, to men who can paint a picture with their words. The man in the cafe doesn't tell her his life story. He tells her a fragment, a single vivid moment that hints at who he is. Maybe it's a story about a time he took a risk, or a moment when he faced failure and came out stronger. The details are vivid, sensory. The smell of rain, the sound of a distant train, the weight of a decision. He doesn't explain the lesson. He lets her feel it. And because he's not trying to impress her, she's impressed. Emotional domination also means knowing when to escalate. The conversation has been light, playful, but now he shifts gears. He leans in slightly, his voice lowering, and asks her something deeper. What's the one thing you'd do if you weren't afraid of failing? It's a question that catches her off guard, that forces her to think, to reveal something real. Her answer doesn't matter as much as the fact that she's sharing it with him. He's created a moment of vulnerability, and in that moment, he's the one she trusts. This is power. Not loud or aggressive, but quiet, undeniable. The cafe is busier now, the crowd swelling as the evening deepens. The man notices her friends glancing over, their curiosity piqued. He doesn't ignore them, he uses them. Social dynamics are the next layer of the Machiavellian approach. Talking to a woman isn't just about her. It's about the world around her, the people who shape her perceptions, the invisible pressures that influence her choices. The man in the cafe knows this, so he expands the game. He doesn't isolate her. He includes her friends, but on his terms. This is a critical tactic. Never make her choose between you and her social circle. Most men see a woman's friends as obstacles, but the Machiavellian sees them as allies. When one of her friends joins the conversation, he doesn't tense up or compete for attention. He turns to the friend, his smile easy, and makes a comment that includes her without shifting focus from the woman he's talking to. You must be the one who keeps her out of trouble, he says, his tone teasing but warm. The friend laughs, and just like that, he's won her over. Now the group dynamic is working in his favor. He's not an outsider. He's the one setting the tone. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must secure the loyalty of those around his target, not just the target itself. In social settings, this means charming the room without losing focus, The man in the cafe does this by being inclusive, but selective. He doesn't try to win everyone over. That would dilute his presence. Instead, he focuses on key players, the friend who seems protective, the one who's loudest, the one who's watching him closely. He acknowledges them with a nod, a joke, a question, but always brings the conversation back to her. This creates a subtle hierarchy. He's the center, but he's not overt about it. Another tactic is managing attention. In a group, attention is a currency, and most men spend it recklessly, trying to impress everyone at once. The man in the cafe is stingy with his attention, giving it only where it serves his purpose. When he speaks, he addresses the group, but his eyes often find hers, creating a private connection within the public moment. This makes her feel special without alienating her friends. It's a delicate balance, but he's practiced it. He knows that social dynamics are fluid, and the one who controls the flow of attention controls the room. Body language is another weapon in his arsenal. The way he occupies space. He leans back slightly, his shoulders relaxed, signaling ease and confidence. When he gestures, it's purposeful, not erratic. He doesn't fidget or glance at his phone. Those are signs of weakness, of distraction. His presence is a constant, a rock in the shifting currents of the conversation. Women notice this, even if they don't consciously register it. It's why her friends are warming to him, why the room feels subtly different now that he's in it. He also uses humor strategically. Not loud, performative jokes, but dry, observational wit that invites laughter without demanding it. When her friend mentions a bad date, he says, "Sounds like he thought charm was a PowerPoint presentation." The group laughs and he's cemented his place as someone who gets it. Humor, when used right, is a social lubricant. It lowers defenses, builds rapport, and makes people want to be around you. But it's a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. The man in the cafe never overplays it. The final social tactic is knowing when to leave. Most men overstay their welcome, clinging to a conversation until it fizzles. The Machiavellian knows that scarcity creates value. After a particularly lively exchange, he glances at his watch and says, "I've got to run, but this was fun." He's not abrupt. He leaves the door open, maybe asking for her number with a casual, "We should continue this over coffee sometime." She agrees, not because he's pressured her, but because he's made the moment feel rare, worth preserving. As he walks back into the rain, the cafe feels emptier without him. That's the mark of a master. The man is gone, but the impression lingers. She's thinking about him now, replaying the conversation, wondering what made it feel so different. This is the final piece of the puzzle, refining the art of talking to women into something instinctive, something that feels effortless, even though it's anything but. The Machiavellian doesn't rely on scripts or gimmicks. He internalizes the principles until they become part of who he is. This takes practice, discipline, and a willingness to fail. The first step in refining this art is self-awareness. The man in the cafe didn't become this way overnight. He studied himself as much as he studied others. He knows his strengths, maybe his voice, his wit, his ability to read people, and he plays to them. He also knows his weaknesses, maybe a tendency to talk too fast when nervous, and he's worked to correct them. This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming the best version of yourself, a version that commands attention without trying. Practice is the next step. The man has approached countless women, not to collect numbers, but to hone his craft. Each interaction is a lesson, a chance to test what works and what doesn't. He's learned to read body language, to calibrate his tone, to sense when to push and when to pull back. He's failed plenty of times. Awkward silences, misread signals, conversations that went nowhere. But he doesn't see failure as defeat. It's data. Every misstep teaches him something new about the game. Feedback is critical. The man doesn't rely on his own perspective. He seeks out mentors, friends, even the women he talks to understand how he's perceived. Maybe a friend points out that he comes on too strong in groups, or a woman he dated tells him he seemed distant at first. He listens, not to please them, but to refine his approach. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must adapt to the times, and the man in the cafe adapts to every interaction, every room, every woman. The final piece is authenticity. This sounds contradictory. How can you be authentic while strategizing every move? But authenticity isn't about being unfiltered. It's about aligning your actions with your core self. The man in the cafe isn't pretending to be someone he's not. His confidence, his wit, his intensity, they're real, just amplified and directed. He's not lying when he shares a story or asks a question. He's choosing which parts of himself to reveal and when. This is what makes the art deadly. It feels natural, even though it's anything but. Refining this art also means embracing discomfort. Talking to women, especially in high-stakes settings, is never easy. The man in the cafe feels the same nerves, the same doubt as anyone else, but he's trained himself to act despite them. He knows that hesitation is the enemy, that confidence is a choice, not a feeling. Every time he steps into a conversation, he's choosing to trust his preparation, his instincts, his ability to navigate the unknown. And with each success, that trust grows stronger. The rain has stopped now, the streets glistening under the streetlights. The man is long gone, but the woman in the cafe is still thinking about him. Not because he was the most handsome or the most charming, but because he was different. He made her feel something: curiosity, excitement, a spark of possibility. She doesn't know that he was playing a game, that every word, every glance was part of a strategy. And that's the point. The art of talking to women, when mastered, isn't about deception, it's about transformation. It's about becoming the kind of man who leaves an impact, not just on her, but on himself. This is what Machiavelli teaches us. Power isn't just about controlling others, it's about controlling yourself. The man in the cafe isn't powerful because he can talk to women. He's powerful because he's mastered his own fears, his own doubts, his own impulses. Every conversation is a mirror, reflecting who he is and who he's becoming. And with each one, he grows stronger, sharper, more attuned to the invisible currents that shape human connection. This journey isn't easy. It demands discipline, self-awareness, and a willingness to face rejection head-on. But the reward is worth it. Not just the ability to captivate a woman, but the ability to captivate the world. To walk into any room and know you belong. To speak with a confidence that doesn't waver, even when the stakes are high. To live life not as a bystander, but as a force. The woman in the cafe will see him again, maybe over coffee, maybe somewhere else. But whether it's her or someone else, the man knows he's ready. He's not chasing love or approval. He's chasing mastery. And in that pursuit, he's already won. If this script has sparked something in you, a desire to master the art of conversation, to wield influence with precision, to become the kind of man who commands attention, then don't let it end here. Hit that subscribe button and join the thousands of others who are learning to navigate the world with confidence and strategy. Drop a like if you're ready to take control of your interactions, and leave a comment with your thoughts. What's the one tactic you're going to try today? Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, because this isn't just about talking to women. It's about mastering yourself. The game is on, and it's time to play.